So this is work from a chapbook that I'm writing now for Eddie Hopley, and it's based on Joy Division's album Unknown Pleasures. That's all you need to know. Get comfortable. Okay. I remember nothing. Violent, listen to music. Violent, read books. Violent, cut out the torn pages of a book. Violent, cut into arms. Violent, people keep themselves. Violent, people wish they weren't born. Violent, we tear into each other in the middle of the night. Violent, we cut into each other. Remember that Bauhaus song, Slice of Life? I write... Yeah! Me too. I write into this weird, all this normal, everywhere. Everyone thinks suffering is normal, which is weird. This female vagrant needs to be held, gets weak to just pass the time. Bjork thinks Detroit is cool, so we're making pipe organs out of abandoned houses. Fuck you, Bjork. We're strangers. But I think Bjork is cool. I like Bjork. Me in my own world, yeah, you there beside, the gaps are enormous. We stare from each side. These memories are literal, these feelings are literal. Looking to get from the unscrubbed floor a state of suspension. So listen, music, drink wine, watch corruption high, trying to solve a best friend who seems she might be everyone wearing a coat. Aria is dressed and responsible with Mr. Fitz. These problems, the jewelry. Has anyone watched Pretty Little Liars? That Hulu, anyway, that's who I'm talking about, Aria. Aria is dressed and responsible with Mr. Fitz. These problems, the jewelry is beautiful, rings belong to my grandmother, she is dead, of money, was lonely, a life with loss. Tell it. This whole poem is gonna change. Looking to get out from the unscrubbed floor and into a state of suspension so we can listen to music and drink wine and watch shows about political corruption, high school girls trying to solve a murder of a best friend who seems like she might be alive because everyone has seen her wearing a red coat, and Aria is the best dressed and the most responsible and in love with her English teacher, Mr. Fitz. Are these our problems? The jewelry everyone wears is beautiful, especially the rings that belong to my grandmother, which I have because she is dead. She had lots of money and was very lonely and had a life so filled with loss. I can't begin to tell you about it unless the whole poem is going to change. Her mother died when she was too young, and her daughter died when she was too young. She drank alcohol out of plastic cups with fake birds wedged into the glass. She called the TV the idiot box. She loved being beautiful. She had a bit of a southern accent. She got a philosophy degree from Sweetbriar. Her father told her not to cry at her mother's funeral. Her father told her that her mother would have wanted her to be strong, just like her. I don't know that her mother didn't want her to cry. He couldn't have known that for sure. Doesn't everyone want everyone to cry? If you don't cry, aren't you totally fucked? Because life has been horrible up to this point. And it will be horrible to remember that when we die, life had been horrible to this point, and it couldn't have been any other way, especially since I grew to be so committed to telling you about it right now. Should we talk about something else? I called this poem, I Remember Nothing. When were you born? Jane has talked to me about how kids dead their parents. Like they say, I wish you were dead, and then the mom says, that's okay, but I'm not dead, and when you want me, I'm here. She says that's called deading. So a kid might say, I dead you, and the mom says, that's okay, you can't just kill me with words. I remember a knot on the hinge of your tooth. I remember a note in the mouth of your noose. I remember the tune you cut into your arm. I remember the long note you sung as you hung. I remember the flames from your oven head. I remember the smoke from your blunt. Me in my own world, yeah, you there beside. The gaps are enormous. We stare from each side. We were strangers for way too long. We were strangers for way too. We were strangers for way too long. We walk through the city streets, making might right, a gang of kids with nothing to do, nowhere to go. I'll try again. We walk through the city streets, making might right, a gang of kids with nothing to do, nowhere to go. This, point to it. Uvula trilling thrills by the loneliness of nights. No one with our name ever drove this switch. Dogs bark back, tears scrape at the high pitch. Tagged by doom, these are the tales of our tears. Forgotten truth hanging from the roof of this, point to it. Open mouth. Did Ian Curtis like eating pussy? Does Kanye West like Joy Division? Rugged nails from hell, from the sex of hell into the mic from hell. Ian Curtis nailed himself to a tree, so we get tattoos of roots on our chest. I want to speak with him. I want to speak with him in mind in front of you. This chain tells us to hold hands. When we scream, we make sense, yes, and we lay down on one end, finger on the other, trying to find a way to get out, to keep the screeching face close. When we scream, we make sense, yes, and we lay down, finger on the other, trying to find a way to get out, to keep the screeching face close. We've got no kin to waste. Let's postpone this tension. Explain to them that what lost us will be the one to lose. What cost us made time shrink at its own act. Gesundheit. He would have thought to himself, God, why did I try to do that? That was awful. But he knows why he did it. He knows where he did it. He knows who was going to find him. He knows what it would look like. He knows what it would feel like for everyone to lose him. What he doesn't know is why he succeeded this time. When Victor killed himself, he put a plastic bag over his head with tape so he wouldn't be able to pull away, change his mind, undo it. I've been so close so many times to trying to kill myself that I watched this window very carefully. The window that opens to tell me it would be a mistake. Some of the people that have survived jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge remember thinking as they fell that it was a mistake. I wait for this window because I know it will come. I hold out for the gap in which I recall how awful it would be to leave my friends feeling so powerless. I want to propose that we think of suicide, like the suicide of Ian Curtis, as a mistake, and that Ian Curtis had no right to kill himself. It wasn't a mistake, but it was mistaken. He didn't kill the right person. My suicide would have been such a violent act that it would have forced other people to lose the part of me they understood, leaving them only with the parts that they didn't. What I would have wanted to accomplish was killing the part of an other that adhered to me for so long from the inside out, a part that I'd grown so attached to that I thought it was me. I would have been mistaken. It wasn't. It was hard not to think of ways that I could hang myself. I didn't really feel like I wanted to keep inventing ways of hanging myself. It was just all I could think about. I remember taking a shower and trying to think if I could tie a towel around my neck and hang myself from the curtain rod. I also thought of hanging myself in the closet of my parents' house and videotaping it. Not only would they find me hanging, but they would also find a recording of it. So there, it would be in black and white. I would stand on a chair in the closet. They would have watched me setting up all the parts, my face close to the camera like I was doing anything. The recording I'd imagined was similar to the images I have today of Ian Curtis's suicide. He sets up a chair underneath a series of wooden beams. He is alone in a big living room or a small kitchen. The images always include exposed beams. There are other stories in my head about how he killed himself. He was watching a Herzog movie, he was listening to the Iggy Pop album, The Idiot, like a scene from a movie where we see the world from the point of view of the protagonist. We watch his arm extend from the eye of the camera and reach down to put the needle on the record. This is what happens in Maya Deren's Meshes of the Afternoon, which also involves what appears to be a suicide. She is lying on a chair with seaweed and glass all over her, having just smashed the face of her lover to discover that through his head was a vast empty sea. There's a lot I don't know about Ian Curtis, but I can tell you one way in which we're the same. Despite what everyone says, he wrote She's Lost Control about himself. I was turning 19, I believe I had my birthday inside the psych ward, or maybe I'd admitted myself only a few days after. I could tell you what date specifically. I could go to the records that I paid almost $100 for last year and confirm the facts. The almost 200-page document about my 2 weeks in Havenwick is sitting at the bottom of the drawer in this room, the burden of proof. It begins with a quiet bass line and light floating. Tinsel hangs from the ceiling and figures march through the summer air hush. This beautiful, foreboding guitar line pops in. The hook is perfect for imitating. The sparkles, the spangle, the twinkle, or tinsel is harder to do with the mouth or body because it's so light gliding over the top of the pan or dish-shaped cymbal. These thunderclaps crash as if the band were only able to find a summer storm with hot concrete and mud puddles. They had to blast through the lightness with storm, but the beginning might be the only light in this song. The rest, as they say, is shadow play. Everything is magnetic, pulling toward desire, the thunderclaps, the center, night, toward narcissistic desire and sadism. It's pulling in so hard the guitar doesn't let up, the bass is sinking beneath, the drummer is losing steam. In some ways, everything underneath lags behind what's on top, even though at first the song sounds like it will be driven by tinsel and lightness. Ian sounds like he's singing into a faraway tube, refusing to aim it. His voice goes anywhere over the instruments. As Ian sings about waiting at the center of the city of night, the song fights its drive toward daytime. It's waiting that makes floating impossible. This is where the all too high treble smacks are brought to bear. I can't wait anymore, smack, smack. And we're supposed to believe the singer is a bad guy, singing, I let them use you for their own ends. But this sounds like another version of Jay-Z being upset about having trained all those MCs when all they do is spill their feelings in the air. Who feels used and who is being used? Ooh, who feels used and who is using who? I let them use you. Ian is talking about himself in first person and then in second. I, the ego, let them, the audience, use you, meaning me. I go outside to go back in. But it's mostly the guitar playing that's using us and demanding drama the song can barely sustain. Shadow play is a concept back to which everything expressive might refer, and we should try to open our arms to being used in this way and to using others in this way. But I think this needs to be shadow play is a concept back to which everything expressive might refer, and we should try to open our arms to being used in this way and to using others in this way. But I think this needs to happen in the light, in a place where it's observable and not a secret we keep. We must listen long enough to take him in before we spit him back out.